In 1785, Vittorio Alfieri wrote, "Often the test of courage is not to die, but to live." And these words are perhaps the best introduction to these thoughts on courage by Leo Roston. I believe that you can understand people better if you look at them, no matter how old or important or impressive they may be, as if they are children. For most of us, never mature. We simply grow taller. I have learned that everyone, in some small secret sanctuary of the self, is mad. If we want to stay sane, we must moderate our demands on ourselves and on others. Those who do not understand mercy cannot in the end escape the punishment which waits within ourselves. I have learned that everyone is lonely at bottom and cries to be understood. But we can never entirely understand someone else, no matter how much we want to. And each of us will forever be part stranger, even to those who love us most. I have learned that the dimensions of suffering, of anguish, of pettiness, resentment, rancor, recrimination, envy, lust, despair, exceed our wildest imaginings. I have learned, too, that man's capacity for sacrifice, for devotion and compassion, and that most astonishing of all virtues, simple decency, can forever hearten and surprise us. I have learned that it is the weak who are cruel, and that kindness is to be expected only from the strong. I have come to believe it not true that the coward dies 1,000 deaths, the brave man only one. I think it is the other way round. It is the brave who die 1,000 deaths. For imagination, more than conscience, doth make cowards of us all. Those who do not know fear are not really brave. Courage is the capacity to confront what can be imagined. I have had to learn that life, so precious, so variable, so honeycombed with richness and delight, is held cheap in the scheme of impersonal events. When a human life is snuffed out in an instant, without meaning, without reason, without justice, how can one deny that all our lives hang by threads of nothing more than luck? A vagrant microbe, an oil slick on the road, an open door, a madman encountered by chance. Against these, what matters all our painful accumulation of virtue? A leak in a gas line, falling glass, a sudden wave, a driver drunk. Against such sheer circumstance, what matters a life devoted to knowledge or enriched by nobility? What price compassion? What weight sacrifice? I cannot escape the awareness that in our last bewildered moment in this world of beauty and wonder and desire, just before we die, 3 simple, awful questions cry out from our souls. Why me? Why now? Why forever? There is no answer to death. There is only a rueful accommodation to reality. And what is reality but a fortuitous play of circumstance, indifferent to our hopes or our unutterable aspirations? And what is wisdom but the capacity to confront intolerable ideas with equanimity? I have been driven to believe that no despotism is more terrible than the tyranny of neurosis. No punishment is more pitiless, more harsh and cunning and malevolent than what we inflict upon ourselves. There is an imperialism in virtue which compels us to acquiesce to those who exploit it. For each of us is a slave to guilt and acts out lifelong expiation, however disguised, however symbolic. During wars or disasters, ordinary men can be lifted into a kind of grandeur because they act for a purpose larger than themselves. I cannot believe that the purpose of life is to be happy. I think the purpose of life is to be useful, to be responsible, to be honorable, to be compassionate. It is, above all, to matter, to count, to stand for something, and to have it make some difference that you lived at all. And so, before the last ding-dong of doom, let us come to terms with the fact that we can live only within a series of impermanent approximations, knowing that our dearest hopes may never be fulfilled, that final truths may remain forever unknown to us, that life, so short, so long, so delicious and baffling and horrid and beautiful, holds nothing more precious than the process by which, to the fullest limits of which we are capable, we stretch the mind and the heart, and that takes courage. There was once a story about destiny, a folk tale handed down the generations by the Jews. Destiny, the story goes, once appeared on a far-away island and summoned 3 inhabitants before him. "What would you do," asked Destiny, "if I told you that tomorrow this island will be completely inundated by an immense tidal wave?" The first man, who was a cynic, said, "Why, I would eat and drink and carouse and make love all night long." The second man, who was a pagan, said, "I would go to the sacred grove with my loved ones and make sacrifices to the gods and pray without ceasing." And the third man, who was a rabbi, thought for a while, fearful and troubled, and said, "I would assemble our wisest men and begin at once to study how to live under water. When our cause seems doomed and the future lost, when despair overwhelms us and the heart is on the edge of breaking, let men summon hope and honor and high resolve and courage in yet one more stubborn affirmation. Come, let us assemble our wisest men and begin at once to think, to study, to try to learn, even to learn if we must, how to live underwater." Often, the test of courage is not to die, but to live.